So hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video I've got my jazz bass out and I want to talk about strings. So I've got 4 sets that we're going to be looking at in the video. These are brand spanking new Roundwounds. I've also got some older Roundwounds which have dulled down a little bit. I've got some Flatwounds and I've got some Nylon Tapewounds. And what I'm hoping to show is even with a single passive bass like this, straight into the interface, no amp, no pedals, there's a huge range of different tones you can get just by changing up the strings. So I put together a track which is going to show each set of strings back to back so you can hear all the differences. So let's hear that first and then I'll come back and do some talking around, how they feel to play, what some of the sound differences are and what my take is on which works best for which style. So on with the track. So I hope you found the track useful in terms of hearing some of the differences. Now I just want to walk through each type of string, give a couple of comments myself on how I find them, starting with these new Roundwounds. So I put these on last night and you can hear they're really bright, got a lot of top end and work really well for the slap sections. So if you want that kind of high-end Marcus Miller sound, you really need brand new strings like this. I mean, that's the problem with Roundwounds, is you'll find the top end dies out of them quite quickly. And I find even if I buy really expensive ones, within a week the top end's gone. These I've been playing maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour, and I can already hear it starting to go. But what I tend to do is go for some of the cheaper ones and just replace them. If I need to do some recording where I really want that sound, then that's what I do. The other problem with Roundwounds, I guess, is there's quite a lot of noise associated with them in terms of they got grooves between each wind on the string, so you can hear that, that scratchy sound. You get that when you move your fingers around the fretboard. You can hear all that finger noise as I move up and down, and also you just get general more fret noise when you're playing. So that's something to bear in mind. But if you want that kind of high def, toppy sound, it has to be Roundwounds. So now moving on to these older Roundwounds then. So these are something that I've come to really like, partly because since being on YouTube, I've had quite a few comments saying, how do you get such a warm bass tone? And the answer is, well, I never change my strings basically. But if you can get to like old Roundwounds, then obviously it can save you a lot of money in terms of changing strings, but also it can open up some additional sounds really, because I find that these can now pretty much do anything. So when we do the slap, it's still got just about enough punch. Or I can use the pick and it's still got some bite to it. Or stick the foam in, turn the tone control down a bit, and then with the foam in you've got lots of those sort of classic P-bassy type tones, almost like Motown sounds. Tone off. So I find the old rounds, they can do pretty much anything, and if you just want one set of strings to be able to use one bass and play all different styles, then probably some aged in old Roundwounds are a good option. So now moving on to the Flatwounds, I think the first thing to say is, if you've only ever played like the normal Roundwound strings, you're going to find these feel quite different. The first part of that is tension, so they do have more tension in them, i.e. they're stiffer to play, but for me, that's part of getting to those vintage tones, you know, it makes you dig in a different way. The other thing though is they're much smoother, so they don't have the same ridges along the string like rounds do, and that means a lot less finger noise and a lot less fret noise, but most of all just really smooth on your fingers when you're playing. So for me, flats are all about the foam in the bridge and that neck pickup kind of sound, you know, trying to get that 60s vibe, and when I play that line I played, you know, that's much more authentic to me playing that with this type of tone than it is trying to do that kind of thing with the normal Roundwounds on. The other tone I really like here is on the bridge pickup only, take the foam out, and that line I played, you know, that's a sound that really works well for me. I tend to not use the both pickups together with flats. I prefer that sound with the Roundwounds, but overall Flatwounds, if you want those vintage tones, it's kind of a must to get there. So lastly but not leastly, let's talk about these tapewound strings. Now with the Flatwounds we were just talking about, I tend to think that probably their true home is on a P bass, whereas with the tapes, actually I think the jazz bass is their true home, and they've got a really unique sound. In terms of playing feel, they've got a lot less tension than some of the other strings we looked at, and you know, they can feel quite floppy to play. You know, there's a bit of a tendency to rattle against the fretboard sometimes as well, but I tend to think that's part of the character. The sound I really like with them is neck pickup, you know, knock the tone back maybe a little bit, and then, you know, with the pick, for me, that's a really kind of unique sound, but it comes through really well in the mix against other instruments because, you know, there's often a competition in a mix for where's the bass going to sit, and sometimes actually if you're too low down, then that doesn't come through at all, but if you're too high up, you know, you just get turned down because you're competing with other instruments. So for me, these tapewounds, they find a really unique place in the mix and get your bass heard really well. My feeling is if you've got a spare bass maybe and you want to get a different sound, then these are a great option. Or if you just want to be a bit more unique, you know, you're not going to see a lot of other people playing these, so you're really going to stand out. So that brings us to the end of the video. I do hope you found it useful, and I hope it helped to explain, you know, some of the different sounds you can get just from a passive bass by changing to different strings before you even need to worry about, you know, changing pickups and adding preamps and all of that stuff. Anyway, well done as ever if you made it this far. Feel free to leave a comment below, let me know what strings you use or which ones you like the sound of, but otherwise I'll see you on the next video.